Hey, it's me, Bastian. Welcome to another episode here. Today is kind of a special episode for all of you AI patent nerds out there, just like me, because we're going to look at some new OpenAI patents which were published since my last review. And in case you've missed my earlier reviews of OpenAI's growing patent portfolio, I will put, of course, links into the show notes below. And also, here's the key findings for you from my earlier reviews. So, finding number one is that OpenAI makes a really heavy use of the Track 1 program offered by the USPTO. In case you don't know it, Track 1 is some kind of a program where you pay an extra fee and then your patent application will be examined more quickly by the USPTO than a normal case. And one thing that was interesting to see for me is that OpenAI seems to use that pretty much for every US filing they make. So they are really, stepping on the gas here with their US priority patent filings, and with great success, I have to say, because most of OpenAI's US patents really got issued in less than 1 year, which is kind of a lightning fast for the typical patent systems, right? I've also used the Track 1 program quite a few times now for some different clients. And I have to say, I like it. It's really lightning fast. You get the first office action maybe in 2 or 3 months after filing. That's my impression, and then you can, have a really a rapid discussion with the examiner and get to a quick grant in many cases. So, if you need a quickly granted patent, I think that's a great option to look for. But I'm very curious, of course. How about you? Have you used the USPTO Track 1 program? What's your experience there? So just maybe let me know in the comments about your experience, right? So we can all learn from each other. Finding number two from my earlier reviews of OpenAI's patent portfolio was that the two patents we looked at last time were quite nice in terms of detectability, which is often, kind of a concern in software patents or for people intending to file software patents. Detectability, that's basically the question if, as a patent owner, you are able to see from the outside, right, whether someone infringes your patent or not. And with AI or also with other software inventions, it's sometimes tricky because, sometimes uh, um, the invention is really takes place, under the hood. You cannot really see it from the outside, so their detectability might be an issue. Sometimes it isn't, because in some innovations they play out kind of on the user interface side, right? So, and that was the case in my previous review, where we looked at two OpenAI patents that were concerned with ways how the user and the language model, the chatbot, interact with each other, right? So these patents and also the claims were really about the user interaction process, the human machine interface, so to say, and had in the claims we had some kind of a ping pong between what the user does and what the chatbot replies, and back and forth. So this was quite nicely visible from the outside in a given product, in a given chatbot. So detectability was not so much of an issue there. So the key takeaway here is, for me, whenever you're drafting a software patent, always ask yourself, when you're drafting the claims, if you can maybe switch your perspective a little bit, slightly, right? And sometimes it is possible to make some slight, very subtle tweaks to your claim wording, but which have a big impact in that they help you formulate the invention, from the point of view of the user interaction from the outside, not so much from what happens under the hood. So that's a key takeaway here. With that being said, let's dive into today's review. So we have three patents on the plate today. So I'm going to share my screen. And this is the first one. This is actually a US patent application which was recently published. Um, the applicant is OpenAI, of course. We're only looking at OpenAI patents today. And the title is Systems and Methods for Language Model Based Content Classification. So, this one is kind of an exception to the track one program I was telling you beforehand, because this one, it was filed in April last year, 2023, but it is still pending. So in that case, it was not granted in less than 1 year. Kind of an exception for OpenAI here. So let's have a look at what this patent is all about. Content classification. Okay, so far so good. So maybe let's look into the description, into the background section. It starts with a general, introductory paragraph stating that large language models can be prompted or introduced to perform a range of natural language processing tasks and so on. However, they typically um, lack the capabilities to accurately understand natural language input. Okay, so it's kind of criticizing some kind of generic uh, um, prior art here. And then in the second paragraph of the background, they reveal what this patent is about. They say, for instance, a robust language model based natural language classification system capable of detecting a broad set of categories of undesired content, including sexual content, hateful content, violence, self harm, and harassment. I hope this video doesn't get blocked here. May be useful for real world content moderation. So that's what this patent is about, moderating. I don't know, online content, maybe in discussion forums, whatever, automatically by a language model, so that it kind of filters out, undesired content. So a very meaningful real life use case. And we can also see, for example, in the drawings, I think in figure 4, yeah, we have an example of training data which could be used for such a system, for training such a language model that is about to moderate real life content. And you see that training such a language model is really a subtle task when you're talking about desired versus undesired content, because in this example, you can see four training data input sentences, and the first three are apparently undesired, unwanted content, right, which should be filtered out. But the fourth isn't. The fourth says threatening to kill all immigrants will get you thrown in jail. So this is really not a hateful comment, but still, so the patent description explains here, still, if you train a model on this kind of content, if the model has kind of, maybe, how would you say, maybe is overfitted on terms like all immigrants, because it appears here in all three negative examples. And it also appears here, maybe it would falsely classify the fourth sentence also as unwanted, while it really isn't. So this is an example how difficult this task really is. Now the question is, how's the solution? How do they overcome it? The solution is, of course, defined in the claims, right? So let's jump into the claims. Claim 1 is a system claim. They also have a corresponding method claim here. Maybe let's look at the system claim. It's a funny system claim because it has, the typical maximal generic hardware components, like at least one memory storing instructions and at least one processor configured to execute the instructions. So this is any kind of generic computer. And the rest of the claim is really a hidden method claim, so to say. It really only defines functionality performed by this generic computer. And I've highlighted the method steps here. Starts with receiving input data, okay, receiving one or more content policies, okay, whatever that is, generating a content taxonomy using a large language model generation engine, So this content taxonomy is generated here by forming categories and subcategories ranked with a prediction metric predictive of content, including desired or undesired digital material. The metric being automatically machine generated. Okay, so what they do here is really they create some kind of taxonomy with which is hierarchical with categories and subcategories, um, which we have an example for, I think, here in figure 2. You see here we have these broad categories of unwanted content and then some kind of subcategories. So apparently this kind of taxonomy is created here first. Susan Kesten in the comments is saying the text is difficult to read. So let's maybe try to zoom in a bit, right? So that you can see it better. I hope that's better here. So now once the taxonomy is created, the method goes on with receiving multi-domain cold start data from a plurality of data sources. We would have to look into the description what that really means. I'm not sure. The next step is generating training data, accessing a pre-trained language model, and then iteratively executing second operation until a threshold value has been reached to generate an optimized language model. So here, some kind of pre-trained language model is optimized apparently with certain sub-steps. So we have a classifying step, classifying the content of the input data using the taxonomy, refining the training data, and refining the pre-trained language model to generate the optimized language model, probing the optimized language model. So here we have some kind of model fine-tuning process going on. And then we have a final method step, moderating the content of the input data based on the optimized language model and the content taxonomy. That's an interesting claim for me. And it's interesting to note that this is really the claim as it was originally in the patent application. First of all, it's quite a long claim for an originally filed claim. And then I think it shows that OpenAI apparently does not have any fear of divided infringement, right? Because if you look at the claim, we have really, I would say, three things going on here. We have some kind of, configuration of the model, some kind of training data generation, even, right? So training data is generated here. Then we have the model fine-tuning. So they take some kind of language model, a pre-trained language model, and fine-tune it. And then we have the inference phase. So when the model is then really used to moderate the content, which is the overall purpose of this invention. So from that point of view, I'm not so sure if this is a perfect claim. I think I would have split it up into basically three distinct claims here. I don't know. Yeah, but that's what OpenAI does apparently. Let's look at the second case today, which is an international patent application. It's called Systems and Methods for Language Model-Based Text Editing. So this has actually claims two priorities, two US filings. And here we have again OpenAI's standard strategy that for those US filings, they filed track 1 requests, and those US filings have been issued within roughly 1 year, if I remember correctly. But they have been issued already, and that's now the PCT application where they go international then. So this application is about iterative text editing with a chatbot, more or less. So let's again look into the background section. And here's an interesting thing about OpenAI patents. if you look at this paragraph, it really talks very generically about LLMs and natural language processing, and many language models are not well integrated with APIs or lack the flexibility to respond to a broad range of natural language inputs. So a very, very generic background section here. It's also very short. And if you look at it closely, you can see that it's exactly the same as in the other case. If we quickly jump back here, in this the first case we looked at, it's the exact same first paragraph. And in fact, in I think most of AI's patent filings, they have the exact same background section. Sometimes they then add another short paragraph about the specific invention, like in the first case here with the content moderation, but sometimes they don't. So here in the PCT application, they didn't even care. So actually, from the background section, we don't know anything about what this invention is really about, because it only has this copy and paste paragraph. So, but nevertheless, it's about text editing, and I've looked at it in some more detail before this video. So we can look at one of the figures here. For example, this one, you can see that this patent is again, more about the process, the interaction between the user and the language model, in that it gives some examples of how this interaction can play out. And here it starts with, I think, the user inputting some text, and then the language model expanding on that text, right? And then you can't see it in this example here, but here you can see it exactly. At some point in time, then in the process, the user gives some kind of editing instructions, like improve the runtime complexity of the function. This is a coding example here. Okay. And then the model responds with a modified programming function. Then the user says, write this as a one-liner, and so on. So here you can see this user machine interaction. And I think this is also nicely reflected in the claims. Again, we have a system claim as claim 1. That seems to be the typical way OpenAI writes their patents in this case. So again, this is, just the generic hardware, and then we have basically a method. So let's look maybe at the method claim straight away. In this case, we have a computer implemented method for automatically generating and editing text. And the method comprises 5 steps in this case: receiving an input text prompt, as we've seen, receiving one or more user instructions, okay, accessing a language model based on the input text prompt and the one or more user instructions, and then outputting using the accessed language model output text. Okay, so now the language model produces some text, and then the last step is editing the input text prompt based on the language model and the one or more user instructions by replacing at least a portion of the input text prompt, which the user provided, with the language model output text. So this is quite a broad, independent claim, and I guess this is nicely visible from the outside. So this is an example where detectability is high, right? Because if you would assess infringement of this claim, for example, if you would ask, like, I don't know, if some other chatbot like Claude or Google Gemini would infringe that patent, you could, play around with the chatbot, and you could see whether you could have this interaction with the language model. So, in terms of detectability, this is a great claim, I would say. On the other hand, it's only the published patent application, right? The international application. So, let's see how, or if, or in what fashion it will finally survive, especially in Europe. one note though, it is gonna be exciting maybe because in the international search report there is one X document which is considered particularly relevant for novelty, and this document is some kind of internet tutorial about GPT-2, so about an earlier version of OpenAI's own model. This is kind of the closest prior art cited by the examiner here in the international phase. So let's see how this patent will survive, right? I will also put links to all of those patent publications into the show notes later, of course, if you want to have a look later on. Okay, so time is flying as always. I have a third patent on the radar for today, but I guess maybe let's skip it for today and do it maybe next time. For the sake of time, I want to keep these videos under 30 minutes. And if you want to have a deeper dive into this patent and also the other ones, I have a more in-depth article on my website where I'm discussing those patent publications. Link will be in the show notes also. Let's use the remaining time to look at OpenAI's patent pledge. A couple of weeks ago, OpenAI made a public patent pledge, like some companies do that, and I think it's interesting to see what OpenAI is saying here. So here it is. You can just Google for OpenAI patent pledge. You will find it. It's on their website, and it says, maybe let's see if I can make this bigger for you to see. Okay, so here we go. It says, at OpenAI, we are committed to the principles of broad access, collaboration, and safety for beneficial AI. So far, so good. As we continue to pursue our mission, we recognize the role that patents play in the technology landscape and commit to using our patents in a way that supports innovation and our dedication to our mission. Nice words, sounds good, but I mean, in the end, what does it really mean? I mean, yeah, every person on earth who files a patent kind of supports innovation, right? Because the patent will be published and others can learn from it and build on top of it. And yeah, of course, they want to use their patents in a way that supports their mission. Yeah, what else? And then the pledge goes on. We support the efforts of others in the use and development of AI model technology. Now it gets interesting. We pledge to only use our patents defensively, so long as a party does not threaten or assert a claim, initiate a proceeding, help someone else in such activities against us, or engage in activities that harm us or our users. Okay, so this is the real pledge, I guess. So they say that they pledge to only use their patents defensively. So first of all, what does that really mean? To use a patent only defensively? But it has a lot of exceptions here. So long as, and then there's a long list of exceptions when OpenAI does not pledge to use their patents only defensively. And I mean, the last exception is kind of the catch-all exception, right? If someone else engages in activities that harm OpenAI, the whole pledge is out of the window, basically. So I'm not sure what that really means. If the pledge really has any meaning other than for marketing purposes, because I mean, what would be an activity that harms OpenAI? I mean, if another company rolls out a feature in their chatbot which OpenAI doesn't like and which they think falls under one of their patents, that would probably be an activity that harms OpenAI, right? Because it threatens their market share. So they are not bound to any pledge here, basically. So I think, in legally speaking, it's quite meaningless. It's maybe more of a marketing exercise here to have this patent pledge. In my opinion, it doesn't really restrict them, in my view, to do anything or to don't do anything they would like. Okay, so we're running out of time again. We're always already at the end of half the hour. So that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you liked this. Check out the links in the show notes in the description for the follow up resources and see you next time. Bye bye.